Quiet, everyone quiet. Let's go ahead and find our seat so that we may begin today's lesson. Alright, welcome class to RuneScape 101. You are enrolled in this course because you are preparing to embark on your grand journey through the realm of Gielinor, also known as RuneScape. Today we will be covering the basic skills necessary to be successful. So please have your note-taking materials out and ready, as was directed on the syllabus, and we will begin. If you have any questions, please hold them for the end of the lecture. Alright, of course, as always, there will be a quiz afterwards for any of the students who feel confident enough to embark on that challenge. Let's begin. There are 4 classifications of skills in RuneScape. We have combat, gathering, production, and utility. We will break our skills down into each of these 4 classifications for simplicity and organizational methods. Let's begin with combat. Combat in RuneScape is robust and has a variety of methods in which you can indulge in said activity. The first skill governed by combat is attack. Attack can be summarized as the accuracy in which you inflict damage on an enemy or opponent. The attack skill does not necessarily determine how much damage you inflict to an enemy, rather how often you inflict damage. When you attempt to attack an enemy, you will either inflict a determined number of damage, or you will miss and record a 0 for your damage on that hit. The attack skill determines how often your attacks miss and how often they hit. The attack skill also determines what type of weaponry are at your disposal and prevents you from utilizing higher level weapons or items until your attack level has increased. Any questions? Moving on to our second combat skill, we have defense. Defense can be summarized as your ability to mitigate enemy damage and also determines which types and level of armor you may utilize. For example, one of the lowest levels of armor that can be worn by a player is bronze. But as you increase your defense skill level, those types of armors will also increase and your options will vary. For example, at level 40 you may begin to equip runite armor, which of course has much more substantial damage mitigation. Next up in our combat skill, we have hit points. Hit points is, very simply put, the amount of health you possess. The higher the hit point level, the longer you might stay alive in combat or while taking damage of any sorts. Next up is magic. Magic governs all magical properties in the game, from combat spells, teleportation spells, utility spells such as alchemy, in which you might turn an item into gold, or any other wide range of uses. The level of your magic skill determines which of these spells are available to you, and also determines the amount of damage that you can do with combat spells. It might also regulate the type of magical armor or items that you can equip. Alright, next up we have prayer. Prayer is a unique combat skill because most of the time you cannot directly do damage through prayer, but you are provided a wide variety of buffs and magical effects that might increase your effectiveness in combat, either through damage or damage mitigation. It also has a wide variety of other uses. The next combat skill that we have is ranged. The ranged skill governs not only the types of damage you do utilizing these weapons, but also the level of the weapons themselves that you can equip. And last but not least, in our combat skill category, we have strength. Strength is one of the most important combat skills if indeed you intend to utilize melee combat, and that is because strength determines the maximum amount of damage that you can inflict on an opponent, while accuracy is determined through the attack skill as stated before. So attack and strength are often balanced together, but if you prioritize the maximum amount of damage that you can have at your potential, then strength might be your go-to stat. Alright? Okay, let's move on now to our next category of skills, gathering. Our first gathering skill is farming. Farming is the skill that governs your ability to plant, harvest, and utilize a variety of seeds and growable items such as trees, fruit, herbs, and things of that nature. We then have fishing. Fishing is a straightforward skill in which you fish, either using rod and reel, net, traps, things of that nature. You can catch a wide variety of fish and aquatic creatures through this skill that can be useful in a wide variety of applications. We then have hunter. Hunter is a unique skill in which you increase your ability to utilize a variety of traps, snares, and tools that are used to hunt and gather wild creatures. These creatures can be redeemed or utilized for unique hunter-based rewards, items, apparel, armor, and so on. It is a unique but rewarding skill. We then have mining. Mining, as it sounds, is your ability to mine and collect resources from the earth. As you increase your mining skill, your ability to mine more expensive and hard to find ores and minerals also increases. So as you raise your mining skill, more rare and valuable ores become more readily available to you. And last but not least, we have woodcutting, which is simply the ability to cut and harvest a variety of wood from trees. The higher the woodcutting skill, the higher level of tree you can attempt to cut. Are we following so far? Do I need to slow down for any note-taking, or can we continue? All right, very well, we will continue. Next up, we have our production skills, and first we have cooking. Cooking is the ability to cook a variety of foods and beverages that can be utilized for a multitude of aspects in the game, from buffs to health regeneration to poison control, things like that. We then have crafting. Crafting governs your ability to create a variety of items and objects made from leather and wood. We then have fletching, the skill that governs arrow and bolt creation from wood products. We also have herblore. Herblore allows you to create a large amount of potions, antidotes, stat increasing brews, and things of that nature from gathered herbs and other materials. We then have rune crafting. Rune crafting is a skill that provides you the ability to craft valuable and powerful runes. Runes, which I should have mentioned with the magic combat skill. Runes are your ammunition of sorts for your magic spells. Each magic spell requires a certain rune or combination of multiple runes. So the rune crafting skill allows you to create said runes and provide them to a mage or utilize them for your own magical purposes. And last but not least, in the production skill line, we have smithing. Smithing is the skill that governs the crafting of metallic objects, be that armor or weapons. You have the ability, as you raise your smithing level, to create higher and higher level items. So the crafting skill allows you to create perhaps leather and wood items such as staves or other things like that. And the smithing skill allows you to craft the metal items in the game. Alright, and last but not least, we have our utility skills. Utility skills are harder to define and provide the player yourselves with a variety of bonuses or tools that can be utilized at your disposal in unique situations. The first utility skill that we have is agility. Agility is a unique passive skill that gives you access to a multitude of shortcuts within the game, or perhaps allows you to bypass certain traps or obstacles that you might encounter on your adventure. Agility can be trained at agility obstacle courses or camps within the game. We then have construction. Construction is primarily used for player housing and creating a house and furniture for said house that you can enjoy and also utilize for certain skill training in your pastime. We then have fire making. Fire making is quite simply the ability to make fire and make it more efficiently when you attempt to strike a match or tinderbox on a set of logs. Sometimes it might take you a bit to get that bit of logs to burst into flames, but the higher level your fire making skill, the quicker you are able to start fires, which can be quite useful when combining that with a cooking skill or providing your services to another player. It also has unique bonuses that become available as you increase your level. We then have Slayer. Slayer is another unique skill. Slayer allows you to target creatures that would not ordinarily be available to combat to traditional players, and also allows you to redeem Slayer task for points that can be then transferred into specific and unique items for the player. We then have Thievery. Thievery allows you to pickpocket NPCs or steal from a variety of vendor stalls and stores. It can be a unique and useful skill for disarming traps or things like that. Alright, and that concludes all of the skills available to us. Now we will discuss how to utilize these skills for your specific needs. The first thing that should be considered is how to choose a production skill that best serves your chosen combat skill. For example, if you have chosen to specialize in attack or strength, perhaps choosing the smithing skill would allow you to create your own set of weapons or armor to aid you in melee combat. If you have chosen, let's say, magic as your primary combat skill, perhaps rune crafting would allow you the opportunity to save money by creating your own runes for your spells. And fletching meshes obviously nicely with ranged. Many varieties and combinations of production skills can be made very useful to you if properly chosen to aid your chosen combat skill. The next thing you must consider is how to choose a gathering skill that supports your production skill, which then supports your combat skill. These examples are fairly simple, but they are crucial to your success. For example, if, like we stated before, we have chosen to focus on smithing, we should then train our mining skill. In order to train your smithing skill, we must have ore to smelt and craft into items or weapons. And in order to have those ores available to us, we must either purchase them, which takes gold, or mine them ourselves, which would lead us to our mining skill. So having a high mining skill means a lot of ore available to train your smithing skill. The same can be said for any of you would-be rangers in attendance today. For if you would like to train your fletching skill to provide you with an abundance of arrows, then wood will be an absolute priority, which can be obtained via the wood cutting skill. The same can be said for cooking, which requires a variety and abundance of raw food, which can be collected via fishing or farming. And that kind of combination can go on and on and on. So it is best to take a step back and view what you would like your RuneScape life to look like and train said skills according to that goal and vision. Alright? And last, we have skills that provide us with gold. Gold is a valuable and mandatory resource in Gielinor, and is required to fund your various adventures or needed items or armor, weapons, etc. And skills can be the streamlined way to gather gold. Mining is very, very useful for generating gold because many players will be willing to purchase the ore that you mine in order to train their skills. Woodcutting can be nice for the exact same reason. We have fishing for those who would like to purchase your fish in order to train their cooking skill. And don't forget about combat skills. Yes, combat can be a wonderful way to make money as well. Perhaps those out there that are training their crafting skill and need to create leather armor, well, where do they get those ingredients to make that leather? Well, from opportunistic combatants like yourselves. Perhaps you would like to slay some dragons for that valuable dragon hide, which can be a very sought-after commodity. So, if you would like to skip the gathering skills altogether, perhaps focus on slaying enemies who will provide valuable drops. Alright, and that is a brief and basic overview of the skills available to you in the world of RuneScape. But before you go, I will leave you with one brief bit of motivation for your long-term goal setting when choosing a skill to train. And that is the Cape of Accomplishments, also known as a skill cape. The skill cape can only be obtained by reaching level 99, which is the maximum level that a skill can be improved to. This cape can then be obtained from the master of said skill, which one master exists for every skill in RuneScape. And this cape shows the world that you have reached the highest possible level in the skill and is the ultimate sign of mastery and prestige. So, perhaps someone listening to this right now will at some point be lucky enough to be rewarded with a skill cape. And I hope that many of you are in the future. So keep that in mind and keep that at the forefront of your goals and vision. All right, we will take questions now. If you don't have any questions, you can go ahead and head on your way. Next time we will have our quiz on the topic, and I hope to see all of you do well, because I did see a lot of diligent note-taking, and I expect great things from this class. All right? Well, thank you for listening, and like I said, if you have questions, stick around. All right, let's start with you in the back there. Yes?